Hello and welcome to the Home Front. Counseling and therapy are so common today that they're taken as read by many people. To what extent, according to a Jewish view of things, do these have a place in a healthy relationship? Rabbi.
Look, an ideal is certainly that a couple should be able to manage on their own without outside intervention, outside assistance. As I have said before, if there is adequate preparation in advance of marriage, very often you can do away with the need for counseling and for someone holding their hand through the course of the marriage. Because it always is a complexity, because here's another voice, there's another opinion. Now, I believe that the most effective form of counseling that there should be where there is a need is to help the couple communicate. And the goal of a good counselor should be to how fast can I wean them away from me by getting them to talk to each other.
How common is that for a therapist who's getting $200 an hour?
Yeah, it's a very serious issue. And even I'm not suggesting that there's no integrity, we are living in a very complex day and age when people are coming in very complicated with a lot of hang-ups, with a lot of baggage from the past. So therefore, there often is a need. But I'm saying again that a counselor or a therapist who's going to prolong this and create a dependency, I think this is something which is not a healthy thing, and this is something which, so a good counselor, he can offer some suggestion as how the couple can enhance their communication with each other and set up a system and set up guidelines and help them and encourage it, as opposed to saying, well, if one of the spouses got what to say, they'll tell me in counseling. No, the goal should be to try and get the couple to talk and to relate, and where necessary, if you need some form of arbitration, if you need some form of guidance, that's fine. But this open-ended counseling, I don't think it's vindicating itself. I think that the soaring divorce rates in the Western world, where there's never been such a proliferation of counselors and therapists and professional guidance in marriage, and yet we're not seeing such great results necessarily. Having said all this, when a couple find that they're at loggerheads over issues, there sometimes is a need for this responsible, mature, outside voice helping them along. That's okay, that's fine, but it, again, definitely not should be built in as a part and parcel of a marriage, that we've got, he's got his counselor and she's got her counselors, and it's just far too complicated and far too complex.
So the goal of good therapy then, as you say, should be to improve communication. To what extent is good communication communicating everything that I'm thinking? Do a couple always have to talk about everything? Are there some things they should keep to themselves? Are there some things they should never say? Or is it about being as honest and as open as possible all the time?
There's no question that being honest and open is very important, and it's integral to a marriage. It may take time to reach such a situation, and of course it's a function of how the spouse or how both of them are going to respond to this. But if both or either one of them are sharing their inner struggles, and they learning to communicate, and they're rising up to the challenges as a team, we're in this together, then it definitely will be an enhancing factor to the marriage. Should they expose everything? There's one of the great sages who wrote significantly about marriage, wrote that being open and frank in marriage is absolutely crucial. However, there's no need for bringing the spouse into the murky past, from the early days. Not necessarily, unless it's something which is relative. We view marriage as a completely new entity that's being created, and it's a new life, and everything is anew. There's a Jewish concept that the day of the wedding is the ultimate Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur is the Day of Atonement, where they are basically come in as pure new souls. And now they're going to be able to merge together. So they've got to look to this as something completely new. Let's bury what was, and we'll be looking forward as opposed to constantly delving into the past.
So that's the past, but what about the present? What about, let's say, a guy is having doubts that he married the right woman. He for some reason, is unsure or going through a rough patch with regard to this. He shares that with his wife? Or is it better to keep those sorts of things to himself?
Those things, certainly. Sharing that with his wife will just create a negative response on her part. And you can create a situation where if he's got doubts, then maybe I've got doubts. And so someone who has doubts, he certainly shouldn't put them onto the table. People in the height of a heated discussion can, sort of talk about, separating, detaching, divorce. Those are things that to be kept very far away from. And we're together in this. We've got issues. Let's sort out the issues. Now, if a person has doubts, so it's fine, and he has very serious doubts, then he should go for counseling and discussion about the doubts. But he should be going to someone who's viewing this as I'm more at ease with constructive counseling as opposed to disruptive counseling. And there is disruptive and divisive counseling. There will be counselors who will, who will basically be angling the couple towards, will say, well, I see incompatibility, and you have to give serious thought. You don't need to pay a few $100s an hour to be told that this marriage should be unraveled. People will know when and if they need to unravel. If there's abuse and there's, the darker side of things, then there's a need for these professional counseling, and there's a need for one or both of them to get help. But under normal circumstances, it should be constructive. Of course, both sides have to get a sense that they are revealing to each other and they're sharing each other's lives, and they're not living in their own little world of secrecy. And so it takes time for this relationship to develop. This relationship will develop as a result of communication, of talking and talking and talking. There should be a lot of talking and discussion. And sometimes couples find that it's easier to go to to spend time together in a distracting environment. When I say a distracting environment, which is go and spend the evening together. It's their night out together, so they go and sit for 2 hours in a movie theater, and they exchange a few comments on the movie. It's not a productive way of spending time. Couples can go and they can enjoy it, and they can spend time together at something of mutual interest and discuss that. But that's not opening up lines of communication. The lines of communication be something much deeper. It should be something that is much more inherent to both of them. So if their joint time is always spent in front of a TV set, at a theater, in a movie theater, or with company even, they're distracted from each other, and they're in a certain sense avoiding intensifying their relationship. There should be real quality time when they're going for a walk together, they're going for a little trip together, and they're speaking, and they're talking, and they're not talking about something objective like discussing a movie. There's also room for that. That's great. They can do that also. They can discuss books, they can discuss anything they want to discuss. But there also should be time for real deep connecting in terms of their relationship and sharing feelings about each other, not only feelings about some objective third party or third issue. It should be about each other. So in the context of this, when a couple are developing this more and more, they're developing the skills of communicating and sharing their lives. As this grows, then if there's a need, if, for example, one of them feel that you have to understand something about me, about certain modes of my behavior, which is rooted in certain things that took place in my past, right? So, okay, then there's room for such openness, but it's only when there's a healthy, wholesome, constructive, growing relationship. But when they're in a situation of discord, then that's not, you're introducing another complicating factor. So rather, the sharing the secrets of one's past is something that can only and should only be done when the relationship is great, when the relationship is close, when they really feel that they're connecting and that they're sharing, only then and only when necessary. Sometimes, again, I was saying, marriage is something new, and they've got to look at a completely new phase in their lives, and it's perceived this way from a Jewish perspective. Spiritually, it's a completely new entity, and therefore, bygones be bygones.
Rabbi, you mentioned earlier the idea that positive, good therapy and counseling should be constructive, geared towards saving a marriage, or at least strengthening a marriage. That seems to be a major problem in society today, with the massively high divorce rates, that people place less of an emphasis on working on a marriage and more of an emphasis on what's good for me, what's convenient for me. How do you change people's view of how marriage should be run, what marriage is? It seems like for many people today, marriage is something which can be entered into much more, let's say, much more on a whim, and ended much more on a whim than, let's say, used to be. Is this Jewish view that you're describing, it's maybe a little anachronistic?
Okay. This whole view is based on maybe the most central factor in the Jewish approach to marriage, and that is marriages are in fact made in heaven. And we believe in that, and it's a real central part of the whole Jewish faith. That once this young couple went under the wedding canopy, the chuppah, it wasn't just some kind of an agreement, some kind of a legal and some kind of a little ceremony. It really is a deep connection where there's a reconnecting of souls. And the principle is that he and she are inherently suited to each other. If we view the divine factor, meaning that marriages are orchestrated by the Almighty, so he knows what he's doing. And if he has put this couple together and they fell in love with each other, and circumstances have it that they now gotten married, so this was meant to be. And as such, with this meant to be, there's a real commitment to making this work. I think when a person comes into marriage feeling, might work, as you said, it's kind of in a whimsical fashion, maybe it'll work, maybe it won't work, I think that attitude already can be very divisive. A person's got to come in with a sense of, that's it, I'm totally committed.
So how do you change that attitude? I mean, people today, third marriage, fourth marriage, fifth marriage, the Hollywood stars and the people that people look up to, enter into new marriages, and it doesn't seem to be something which people relate to so much.
Look, they may look up to certain aspects of their talents and their success, but to say that I want to emulate the life of a Hollywood star who's been married 5 times, with all the pain and the discomfort and the issues that emerge from a marriage that's become unraveled, and the anger and the pain and the suffering. So I think very few people would look up to this great sportsman or great celebrity that I want to emulate that aspect of his life. I'd like to be able to play basketball the way that guy plays basketball. I'd like to act the way he does. I'd like to make the money he's making, but I don't necessarily want to share his very unstable and very shaky personal life. I just don't want to be there. But you're right, it has become much more commonplace. But I'm a traditionalist, and us traditional Jews, we go back to time immemorial that marriage has been the bastion and the centerpiece of our faith virtually, because this is what's kept the Jewish people going. The Jewish people have gone through extraordinary challenges over the generations as a people who chose to communicate certain values and certain messages to mankind, as such, we've had some very rough times in our past, and what's kept the Jewish people very much together has been the integrity of the marriages. And it's really based on the fact that a couple come into marriage with a tremendous sense of dedication to that marriage, with a belief that this marriage was made in heaven. Now, the fact that they find many, many areas of conflict, and there are many, many areas of where they just differ vastly. On the contrary, coming in with the attitude that this was made in heaven, meaning that the potential is there, they will look to bridge these gaps. And they won't, every time, the first time there's some kind of a confrontation or some form of misbehavior, say, okay, I'm out of here. That is not going to, that's a very unstabilizing factor. The fact is that our belief is that they are inherently suited because they really were part of one soul. Soul features very prominently in Jewish thinking, that we are not just bodies and minds, but there's another element to man, and that is soul. And on the soul level, it is soulmates that are put together. The essentially Jewish principle is that the Almighty created souls with a male and female factor to every soul. And these souls were separated, and the female took hers and the male took his, not necessarily at the same time. And they will spend their early years as a half a soul, a half a real entity, until the divine orchestrator of the world, of the universe, of mankind, will orchestrate that they will find each other, they will be matched up, they will fall in love with each other. And when they get together, they're getting together as, oh wow, so we finally resolved this doubt of where's my other half. Now I've got my other half. So you've been through 20 odd years of experiences and exposure, and I've been through 20 odd years of exposure and experiences, and there's a lot of baggage, and this baggage is going to maybe complicate things. But if we have an inherent belief that we really are made for each other, and we really are connected at this very deep soul level, we'll try and overcome these soul issues. We'll kind of overcome these issues that are separating us, and we'll work on it. So when you've got two parties who our belief is are inherently suited to each other, and they're totally committed to trying to make it work, it will work. And that has been the secret of Jewish marriage. The secret of Jewish marriage, which has come under extraordinary stress, because financial issues are stress, instability of the environment is stressful, and Jews have experienced this over the ages. They've experienced the tremendous financial issues when they were being kicked and pushed from pillar to post and exiled throughout the ages, where there's been real violence perpetrated upon communities, and yet these factors have never ever infringed upon marriages. The marriages remained intact, and that was because of the sense of total commitment. So I would say that a lot of these issues can be preempted if the couple understand that this wasn't just some whimsical type of, we used to call it puppy love, right? A puppy latches onto anybody who's showing some kind of love. So there's some kind of infatuation between two individuals, and they decide, well, okay, that's it, let's get married based on this infatuation. We believe once they got married in a Jewish context, and it's a proper marriage, then this is a soul connection, that there is potential.
We're not going to say, are we, that every single marriage is made in heaven. I mean, people can marry the wrong person by mistake.
Look, a person has freedom of choice, right? And a person has, you're getting into a very, very delicate and deep, profound issue of predestiny and freedom of choice. How do these two things work together? When the one
our viewers are very deep and delicate peoples.
Okay.
I think we can address.
So predestiny is that the Almighty, the Creator, has predestined every aspect of our lives, and yet in the very, very in the same measure, He has also given man absolute freedom of choice. That's in this way, man is distinguished from the rest of the creation. That only man has this absolute freedom of choice. So a person going into marriage, and he's going in with a Jewish approach to things, right? If he's living completely in a non-Jewish frame of mind, and he's very thoroughly non-Jewish about things, so he certainly can make serious mistakes. He's exercising his freedom of choice in a negative manner. But if a person is going in and he and her found this connection, this deep connection is something which is called love, and they found this, and by rule of thumb one can say, if as a result of normal wholesome behavior they fell in love and decided to get married, that this was meant to be, and now it's up to them to make this work. It's up to them to overcome the difficulties, to overcome the challenges. They recognizing that there are vast differences, and there will be vast differences, and these have to be bridged. But if you've got two parties committed to working hard at this marriage, and there's many binding factors, it's not two business partners who've decided to create some kind of a partnership. This is, this is something much deeper and much more serious and much more inherent.
So as a rule, one goes on the assumption that there wasn't some sort of mistake and that this couple was really meant to be united, even though there could be, theoretically exceptions, but certainly a therapist shouldn't, proceed on the basis that this was probably a mistake. We should get these guys out of it. Is that a fair summary?
Yeah.
Interesting. So communication between husband and wife is so important, and sometimes they need a little outside help to help them communicate. But that's where it should stay. It should stay as help from the outside. If it becomes itself an addiction, then that could be problematic as well. Thank you, Rabbi.